As far back as Egyptian mystery schools some 5,000 plus years ago, people were taught that there are five perfect three-dimensional forms: the tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, dodecagon, and icosahedron. Collectively, these are known as the Platonic solids, and they are the foundation of everything in the physical world. It has become apparent that the entire physical universe displays elegant geometric proportions. One can only be led to the conclusion that such orderliness can only be the product of a divine mind. Hence we view it as proof of creation as opposed to the disorderly and random Darwinian evolution. Thus the word sacred has been appended to this universal geometry to imply that it was all created by God. As Charles Gilchrist said, sacred geometry is literally the architecture of the universe. Sacred geometry is pure universal truth, springing directly from God's mind. Worlds turn in sacred geometry, and the galaxies spin because of it. Studying the natural unfolding of the geometric archetypes aligns our human consciousness to the infinite and the eternal. In these studies and meditations, we begin to see the way of things, the true nature of the universe. Professor Robert Moon of the University of Chicago demonstrated that the entire periodic table of elements is based on these same five forms. This means that everything in our physical world is created from these five perfect three-dimensional forms of sacred geometry. Deep mathematical principles underlay the foundation for all forms, as evidenced by the golden ratio. The golden ratio is denoted by the Greek letter phi, which expresses the relationship between two numbers, where the sum of the two is to the larger, as the larger is to the smaller. That is, where A is the larger, A plus B is to A, as A is to B. Solving this equation algebraically, the only solution is the irrational number 1.618033989. Like pi, the decimal string goes on infinitely. Geometric forms conforming to or incorporating the golden ratio are abundant in nature. The number of petals on flowers conforms to the phi ratio, and it is the way the human body grows, finger to hand, hand to forearm. Life itself, as we know it, is inextricably interwoven with geometric forms, from the angles of atomic bonds in the molecules of amino acids, to the helical spirals of DNA, to the spherical prototype of the cell, to the first few cells of an organism which assume vesicle, to the corneas of our eyes. The shape of the human eye itself is a vesica piscis, snowflakes in nature, pine cones, flower petals, the branching of trees, hexagonal cells, constructed by honeybees to hold their honey, a nautilus shell, the air we breathe, the star we spin around, the galaxy we spiral within, the orbit of the planets. All life forms as we know them emerge out of these timeless geometric codes. Most importantly, our human bodies all developed with a common geometric progression from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 primal cells and beyond, and the flower of life is the pattern of creation. Almost everywhere we look, the mineral intelligence embodied with crystalline structures follows a geometry unfaltering in its exactitude. The lattice patterns of crystals all express the principle of mathematic perfection and repetition of a fundamental essence, each with a characteristic spectrum of resonances defined by the angles, lengths, and relational orientations of its atomic components. Sacred geometry asserts that by analyzing and working with geometric figures, one attunes to the mystical laws of creation. Geometry is interrelated with sound. The architecture of ancient civilizations were built to mimic the pattern of the higher order, so people could experience that higher energy. That's where the term sacred geometry comes from. Particular frequencies are attracted to particular geometric shapes. They are further reinforced into a coherent presence by that shape. Thus the energy is made palpable and available to the individual by using sacred geometry as an antenna to both attract resonant frequencies and to coalesce and reconfigure ambient energies. The Great Pyramid of Giza focuses intense energy in the king's chamber. Etched on the walls of the temple of Osiris at Abydos, Egypt, is the flower of life which contains the templates for the five Platonic solids. These architectural principles become carefully guarded secrets of the Middle Ages, primarily by Freemasons and the guilds, and were used in the design of Gothic cathedrals. Modern civilization does not use sacred geometry, and rather than attracting natural cosmic frequencies, it repulses them and blocks the flow of energy. One of the applications of sacred geometry is using geometric forms for ascension, purposes which has always been applied by the most knowledgeable of mystery systems. Some of the people to reapply these techniques include Gregory Hoag, who began building pyramidal forms and sleeping in them. He claims to have had a very strong Kundalini experience, which was catalyzed by a large pyramid filled with crystals. Subsequently, he began to see energy patterns as they turned into geometric forms. As Dr. Len Horowitz is quoted, studies in structured water science, electrogenetics, and protein crystallography provide knowledge about how human beings are built using sacred geometry. Every carbon-6 hexagon in your body is vibrating musically with 528 Hz energy and operating energetically or biospiritually.